Before I start this video, I do want to make you guys aware that this video has some very sensitive topics that may be triggering for some. I will be sharing some graphic content, whether it's in my speech, my words, the things that I share with you guys. I may or may not share images yet. I haven't decided. I guess you guys will find out once you watch it. But just so you guys know, this is real life stuff. It's stuff that happens all the time, but you know, for some of you that may be dealing with this topic at hand, it might be triggering, and again, it's a little bit graphic, so just so you guys know that. It's been such a long time since I just sat face to face with you guys. I feel like I took like a 6-month break, came back, and then all of a sudden I'm gone again. I know I updated everything, the look of my channel and all that, and I said I was going to be posting videos every Sunday at noon, which it's still the plan, but there was some stuff that happened that unfortunately caused me to take a little pause and kind of take a deep breath, relax, figure myself out, take it easy, and you know, but today I am here to share some very exciting but also scary and very life-altering news with you guys, and I had no idea I was going to be sharing this anytime soon, if at all, again. So if you guys follow me on my DIY channel, you guys know I took a little break. If you follow me on IG, you know I've been absent for, I don't know, maybe like a month or so. I haven't been very active on my socials. I haven't really been doing much of my filming, whether it's here or on my DIY channel, but I wanted to come on here and just give you guys, you know, an update, and also it fits into this lifestyle. So, we actually had gone on vacation for, you know, our yearly summer trip, and we were gone for about a week, and I came back and things, it's just, I guess, where am I going to start? I guess I'm going to start out with telling you guys that I am actually pregnant right now. I had an IUD pregnancy that was very, very scary and very out of the blue. 1% of the women who are on the IUD have that chance of getting pregnant. Like I mentioned, I wasn't really planning on it. I had no idea. I had no clue. Honestly, I'm 37 years old. I feel like I'm already on that road of being a little too old for this, and then I was also almost feeling sometimes like I'm just gonna postpone the talk and this until it's too late for me to even say, yeah, let's go ahead and have another baby or be pregnant. So I kind of wanted to share with you guys like the whole way it was so scary how I found out. I'm going to talk to you guys about a few of the health stuff that I had been dealing with. You guys have seen, if you've seen previous videos, that I have been working out for like over a year and a half. I lost like 30 pounds. I was just getting in shape, just being a healthier version of myself. And even though I was like physically, outer physically looking and feeling much better, on the inside I was a complete mess and disaster, and I feel like it's been going on since I got the IUD, since I had my daughter 3 years ago. So I've been going back and forth with my doctor, with therapists, with just, you know, trying to figure out what the heck is going on with me. I was diagnosed with like anxiety disorder and depression and all of that. So there's a lot of things that were kind of affecting my mood and my mental health. I was also having a lot of fatigue. I felt like my hormones were all over the place. I was breaking out a lot. She had done lots of blood tests and stuff, and you know, one of the only things that came back that she actually expressed was that I was vitamin D deficient, which caused like the fatigue that could also cause depression, etc., etc. But I felt like I saw other stuff going on with my hormones that even though they were on like the lower or high end, they were still in range, so it was considered normal. So I was going nuts trying to figure out what the heck was going on with me. I thought that has to be it. The IUD has to be it. This is what's causing all of these problems because, you know, I have been on the IUD for however many years, and throughout those years I always felt something. Prior to me being pregnant with my daughter, I had the copper IUD, the Paragard. I think this is Paragard, right? That was like the 10-year IUD. And I felt like, I just didn't feel good. I had really long periods, heavy cramping, just, it was miserable. My periods lasted forever and ever. So when they told me to switch over to the Mirena IUD, I'm already hormonal enough as it is. I don't need anymore. And she said, no, this is not like a huge dose of hormones or anything like that. It's going to help with your periods. It's going to help with your cramps. If anything, it's going to do away with your period. Well, it did the complete opposite of that, because my periods were long and heavy, and they never went away, and I just had all these issues. The last several months have been just ridiculous. My periods were dumb. They were irregular. It was either it got here for a couple days, then it would go away, then it would come back and last for another 7 days. So it was just not fun times, and not fun times for my husband either, because it was just like, you know what I mean? My last period, which was in July, started and it lasted for 3 weeks. The period before that, it came late, and then just a few days late, and then it came, and then it went, and then it came again, and it was completely off. So then in July, I had a 3-week period where I was like every single day for 3 weeks. It was very different than what I'm used to. It wasn't like a full-on like new period. It was like as if I was on my last days for those 3 weeks, which was really, really odd. I made an appointment with my gynecologist also just to take this thing out. I guess July, right around when that happened. So they couldn't get me in until late September. So great. Okay, I guess I'll deal with it. And then August 11th was a Wednesday. I got a notification on my Fitbit saying, you are due to start your period today. I said, great, just what I needed. Sure enough, I started my period that day. Well, those several days, we were actually at Six Flags. We're going to go on the roller coasters, do all these fun things. We came back Friday the 13th. Everything was good. So the next morning, which was Saturday, I was actually feeling normal. I was doing fine. I was walking to the bathroom and I'm like, oh my gosh, I had to go change my tampon. And sure enough, like I went and like it just like blood gushed everywhere. It was so heavy, so bright red. It was just so much that it startled me a little bit, and I thought like, oh my gosh, like what the heck, this is new. I have never seen it like that. It like completely covered the toilet. It was really awful. I cleaned myself up and stuff, and then I went to insert another tampon, and when I did, blood, it just gushed like everywhere, like again. It was like, it was on the floor. It got on my underwear, got on my shorts. I kind of called for my husband and I said, hey, can you please bring me a new pad and a tampon and some underwear and some shorts? I'm bleeding a lot. I don't know what's going on. He's like, are you okay? I'm like, yeah, this is not normal. I don't know what's going on. And so he put some clothes outside of the door for me. I grabbed it, I cleaned myself up, like I grabbed the freaking bleach spray, I just threw everything away, started spraying everywhere because that's how bad it was. So I just, started cleaning and stuff. He's like, well, hold on, like, are you okay? And I said, yeah, I just don't want the kids to come in here and see all this. And it was just really scary. And so I didn't even, I wasn't even up and finished changing more than 5 minutes when I felt like a huge gush just come out again. So I ran to the bathroom. Sure enough, just soaked the whatever tampon I had in, my pad, my underwear, my shorts, again, everything was just all over. And then I started passing really, really big clots, big clots. They were probably the size of I don't know. They were big. So here I am, I think I was in shock because I was I called him again, can you please bring me another change of clothes? And he said, I think you might have to bring me a towel. And it was just so scary. So it happened a fourth time where I cleaned everything up again. I threw all this, all these clothes that I was soaking through. He brought me more. And then the fourth time again, it just like gushed. It just gushed, and these blood clots kept coming out, and it was so scary. Kind of slowed down after that. I wasn't gushing out, but I felt like every time I stood up, I felt blood, and not enough to like soak. By this time, I just was almost out of like my panty liners. I didn't have tampons. I didn't have anything. So I literally grabbed like not a hand towel, but like one of those medium-sized towels, folded it up, and just put it in my underwear and put my clothes on, and that's what I was walking around in. So I decided to call the nurse line because it was a weekend. So within 20 minutes, I had already lost so much blood. I had passed so many clots, and I was continuing, not as heavy, but it was still continuing. So, you know, she basically said, keep track of how much you're bleeding, and if you soak however many pads during a half hour or within however many hours, then call us back, blah, blah, blah. And so I came to lay down. Just something in my mind was not, it was processing all these things that could go wrong. Like I was Googling all these things, like the side effects that could happen with like the IUD, and then like the whole ectopic pregnancy thing came up, and I instantly thought, oh my God, so that's probably what it is. This is not going to be good, because if any of you know or have heard, ectopic pregnancies can be really, really dangerous. They could even lead to the female dying because of that. So I was terrified. Anyway, so I looked for a pregnancy test, and I found it, and I went into the bathroom, and I was still like bleeding and all this. So I took the pregnancy test, and immediately, it wasn't even like 10 seconds, and I saw like the pink lines already showing, and I just thought, oh my gosh. I cleaned myself up, I grabbed everything, I grabbed my phone, and then I talked to him. I said, this isn't good. I said, I don't know why I decided to, but I just took a pregnancy test, and it came back positive. So I called the nurse line again. That nurse was so rude. She's like, well, what would you have done if we had an answer? I don't know. She was just so rude. I didn't like her. But she just basically said the same thing. Like, well, if you're soaking however many pads, blah, 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 you should just keep an eye on it. But she's like, but you should probably go to the ER, you know, if the test came back positive, blah, blah, blah. It's such a blur right now. It feels like it just happened, but it was like a month ago that it happened. I think it was like noon. It was around noon where we go in there. Oh my gosh. It was a zoo, and I did not want to be in there, and there's fires everywhere, so it's smoky outside. It was like thick smoke outside, but inside of the hospital, it's just packed with COVID patients, and like our hospitals were overrun. There's just people on the floor. It was like out of the movie almost, and I did not want it. That was the last thing I wanted to be in there. And you know, as we're walking, like every single step I took, I just felt blood. I had like a huge towel just like in my leggings to make sure that, and then I carried a towel with me so that wherever I went, I could sit down just in case. I told them, I'm like, I'm cramping, I'm bleeding, and I took a pregnancy test, and it's positive. And still, with all that information, we were in the waiting room for like 5 hours, and I had to get up every so often to go to the restroom because I could feel blood just gushing down. So I would go to the restroom, and blood is just, it's just coming out, and I'm passing all these clots, like huge clots. I'm so terrified. So then what I thought, I'm like, oh my gosh, so maybe it's not an ectopic pregnancy. So I came out, and I like took pictures of the clots just in case the doctor wanted to see her, wanted to ask me questions about what they looked like, what size they were. And I showed my husband, and I swear to you, there's one where there's like a little image on it, and it almost looked like a fetus. And I just started sobbing. Alright, sorry, I had to take a little break. I feel like that's why I took a big break from this also, just because I was like going through it, man. So anyway, I came out of the bathroom, and I showed my husband this picture, and yeah, I told him I think that I'm like having a miscarriage right now. And I just was I was sobbing in the middle of the emergency room, and there's like really not much I can do because like there's so many people there. So we were kind of taking turns from going in and out. Like, we were waiting outside for quite a while, and we told them, like, come get us out here, just because we didn't want to be with all like the coughing and all that stuff. But it was super smoky outside, so finally we came back inside. They were able to take us in to like take my vitals and all that, and then we had to wait longer, and because they literally had no rooms available, after a few hours we went back to the ultrasound room, and sure enough she says, well, you are pregnant, and we could see the baby in there and stuff, and I just was in shock. I didn't even know what to think. So I mean, thankfully I obviously wasn't miscarrying, but I didn't know what was happening. So she said, the baby has a heartbeat, you could see it moving. So now, like, after whatever else she was seeing, because they can't really tell us anything there, we had to wait for the doctor. In total, I think we were at the ER for about 8.5 hours. And so once we did the ultrasound, I think they took us back to the waiting room, and then finally they took us back when they had a room available. They're kind of going back and forth, like the nurse and stuff. And like I said, my memories are a little fuzzy just because there was so much going on at that time. I don't remember like the specific timeline or anything like that. But so the doctor came in, and he kind of checked in on me and like asked me questions, and asked me about the bleeding, and asked me about how much, asked me about the blood clots. And then he did say that obviously there was like a viable pregnancy, but that obviously the IUD is still in there, and that I have a hemorrhage in my uterus. She's sharing with the baby and the sac and all that. Well, they didn't even tell me what it was. They just said it was like a hemorrhage. So the official term, I didn't hear it until later on. So with that, he said that these typically do end in a miscarriage. Oh, sorry, I had to take another little breather there. Okay, so I'm gonna try to get through this because I think I already, okay, hold on. So he said more than likely this is gonna end in a miscarriage, and and of course I started crying, and he was trying to be very comforting and consoling, and my husband was too. He said, these things happen, it's very common, and so right away I thought, well, maybe this is my fault because I had been doing all these things that you're not supposed to be doing when you're pregnant. I was just on like however many roller coasters, so I think that like I caused it. And of course, he's saying that it's not my fault. I didn't do anything. I didn't know. There's no way I could have known to not blame myself. Again, these things happen. They're very common, unfortunately. So he kind of tried to calm me down and stuff, but he also had to page the on-call OB just because of everything else that was going on. So we had to wait for him. And then when he came in, he, asked pretty much the same questions, reiterated that, there's a viable pregnancy, but at the same time, it was probably going to end up being a loss. And so he confirmed what the first doctor had said. And he also kind of mentioned like the risks of the IUD being in there. My white blood cell level was very elevated because there was like an infection or something, clearly. So he said it could be really dangerous if we leave the IUD in there. But if we do take it out, it might be hard to take out depending on where it's at, where it got lodged, where it went in there. And he said that if they did pull it out, it could cause more bleeding, which could in turn cause like the miscarriage to happen sooner. But so he went in there, he did the pelvic exam, and he was able to pull out the IUD without any like complications or anything like that. And he did say, you know, like, I kind of tried to ask questions, but I guess there was so much going on. There was like so much going through my head. Like, I was in complete shock. Like, first I wasn't expecting to be pregnant, but then now that you find out, well, now that I found out that I am, like, it's very sad thinking that. Oh my gosh, I keep saying that I'm not gonna keep taking breaks and just get through this video. Alright, I think I'm good now. Alright, so that was what he said. And so he gave us the option, saying that, you know, it could happen gradually, it could happen soon, it could happen over the next several weeks, to where it'll just come on its own. Or he said you could go get a DNC, or, you know, I'm at a Catholic hospital, so they can't do that there. He said you'll have to schedule an appointment somewhere else to get that done. And I said, well, I'm not gonna do that. You know, if we continue to hear that the baby's moving, the baby's fine, I'm not gonna go and do something, you know, before knowing any of it. He kind of left it at that. And so at the very end, he did say, well, there's like a 50-50 chance that it's going to be a miscarriage, 50-50 chance that it might just be fine. This is completely normal, blah, 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 whatever it was. I went home with that thought in my head that it wasn't going to come. It wasn't going to be completed. So he just said, you know, bed rest, and then we'll schedule an ultrasound for you on Monday, da-da-da-da-da. So I went home, just went to bed, rested. I think I was in bed for about a week, minus the times where I had to, like, go to the doctor and stuff. So come Monday morning, I called first thing to get into the ultrasound, to get an ultrasound done. So we did. I went in there, and that's when the ultrasound technician, I guess, she was a little more informative of, like, what she was seeing and stuff. She said, you know, I measured at the ER, I measured 11 weeks and 5 days. So by Monday I was already 12 weeks. So I was like the 3 months along, which is around that time where, you know, you're still at risk. So anyway, she did the ultrasound and stuff, and she explained to me that, you know, the baby looks fine. The baby looks healthy. It's moving, healthy heartbeat and all that. But she said that there's like a subchorionic hemorrhage, or like a hematoma. It's either called a subchorionic hematoma, subchorionic hemorrhage. So it's basically like a pocket of blood that forms between your uterus and the placenta. Or not the placenta, I'm sorry, the sac. So it's growing in between there. So when she measured it, it was about maybe 2 centimeters. It was about the size of a walnut, I would say. And she didn't seem very thrilled. She didn't give me really any reinforcement on whether we should look forward to, you know, anything. It was just more of like, I don't like that it's there. But we're gonna schedule another ultrasound for you. When they measured it at the ER, it was the size of a peach. So it's pretty big. But I'm thinking, because when I look back at our vacation pictures, I saw a picture of me that I was like, what the heck? I know I've been eating a lot, but, you know, my belly looked pretty big. So I can imagine how big that thing was. And my only theory is that being on the roller coasters caused that trauma to make it bleed. I'm not saying that the roller coasters or anything I did caused this hemorrhage. I feel like it was the roller coasters that caused the trauma for it to bleed so heavily and so abruptly, and to lose all these clots all at once. So I'm thinking that it was very big, because by the time I had already lost all that blood, lost all those clots, it was back to the size of about a peach. So she just said it's something that happens. It's uncommon, but it is something that happens. I don't like that it's there, so we're going to continue monitoring. So they scheduled another ultrasound for like the next week. So that's kind of where I was. I was just on bed rest for the entire week. She just said that was pretty much what they recommended at that point. So I'm just basically from the bed to the couch, from the bed to the couch. And it was very hard because I couldn't pick up Milani, like the boys saw what was happening, and I just felt so bad. And of course, we shared what was happening and what we were told with them as well. So we all found out that, you know, there's a pregnancy, but there wasn't like, it's like you couldn't really feel joy or like happiness. So we were just kind of like day by day, week by week, you know. So they scheduled another ultrasound for August 23rd. I went to that ultrasound and the clot got bigger. So it was back to the same size that it was when I went into the ER. The only thing positive that was said was that the baby's good. The baby's okay. The baby has a healthy heartbeat. It's growing as it should. And that was a positive thing. But as someone who was already battling these thoughts and, you know, like being in that situation, seeing what's happening with my body, like I can't help to think, but like, yeah, but this hemorrhage is there, and if it keeps going, then it's gonna, you know, like the fear was that this hemorrhage is gonna get so big, or it's gonna continue growing, that it's gonna detach the placenta from the sac, and that's the baby's lifeline. So if that placenta detaches, it's gonna cause a spontaneous abortion or a miscarriage. So that was always that thought in the back of my head. And so, you know, they sent me home and they set up my appointment for like my first official OB appointment and more ultrasounds, like a weekly ultrasound. And so I went home and they just said, you don't really need to be like on complete bed rest, just take it easy with what you do. And so I thought, okay, maybe I'll just get back to like doing the normal stuff and just, you know, obviously nothing too excruciating or too, just nothing too much, like not really picking up Milani or doing heavy lifting or bending or anything like that. Went grocery shopping the next day. I was putting my groceries away, but then that evening I noticed that my bleeding came back a lot more heavier, bright red, and what they want to see is like old blood. They want to see like dark red, brown. So the things that I needed to look out for were fever, chills, cramping, blah 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 blah, bright red, new bleeding. That's something that I needed to call about right away. I call and I told them, you know, yeah, I'm having a lot more bleeding. It's a lot heavier. It's not as heavy as it was in the beginning, but it's bright red, and that's, you know, one thing they told me to call about. And they couldn't get me in to do an ultrasound that night, so they told me to call the next day, and because they didn't have anything available, so they would have to call around to different clinics to see if they could get me an ultrasound somewhere else, which they did. They were able to get me somewhere else. So I went that next day. Like the bleeding got a little bit better. It wasn't as heavy, but they still recommended I go to the ultrasound instead of waiting. So I went, and again, the baby's fine. The baby's healthy, normal heartbeat. The only thing is that the clot or the bleed, what they call it, different things, the size hadn't really changed. So it was just kind of the same, which is good. It wasn't getting smaller, but it didn't get any bigger. On August 31st, I had another ultrasound set up. I think that was more like the most reassuring ultrasound appointment that I had, because the clot did get smaller, and then she was actually able to see that the growth or the hemorrhage was actually on the opposite side of the placenta. She really thought that that was the reason that the baby was doing good, because the hemorrhage is on the opposite side of the placenta. So there's still that risk that, you know, that hemorrhage could get bigger. But right now she was very reassuring that that we could possibly plan for a healthy pregnancy. But yeah, so that was like probably one of the most reassuring things that I had heard. And this whole entire time I was just feeling super depressed, really sad. You know, at the same time I was trying not to think about it. I feel really bad because I know there's this pregnancy, but I didn't know how to acknowledge it without getting attached in case something did happen. So I was just really torn between, you know, what to feel. So at the same time I was like just trying to keep myself occupied, just watching TV or try not to go on my phone, because I kept looking all these things up. I kept trying to look up this subchorionic hemorrhage, and all I found was like negative stuff. Always just, it's gonna end up in miscarriage. So I was kind of messing with my own mind as well. And at some point I just had to stop. Like, I was off my phone. I didn't respond to anybody. I didn't respond to messages. I didn't do anything. I was just watching TV. And, you know, at the same time I felt so horrible because I have my husband and my kids and my daughter, and I'm just, you know, kind of withdrawn a little bit, not really able to be super involved in what they're doing, like playing or being active or helping with the house. But my husband he was super amazing throughout the whole thing. He like helped me out so much, and he just took over like the responsibilities and stuff. So I think up until now, like, I haven't really gone out much either. So that same day, right after the ultrasound, like a couple hours later, I had my first OB appointment. And I spoke finally after talking to the only 2 doctors at the ER, and then talking to nurses and talking to the ultrasound technicians, and then not really talking to a doctor. Like, I finally had my appointment with her, and, you know, we kind of went over everything, and she said overall everything looks really good. The baby looks really healthy. So there's no reason why you can't plan for a healthy pregnancy. Just that's the only thing we're looking out for right now. We're looking out for this, you know, keeping an eye on this hemorrhage, and keeping an eye on the size. So there's still that possibility that if it does get bigger, there might be some complications, but we're just hoping that it doesn't. So far, like, I've been bleeding for I don't know how long now, a month, more than a month or so. But it's, even though sometimes it does get heavier, I haven't seen any new bleeding or anything like that. And I still, like, I don't really feel pregnant. I've never felt nauseous. I never felt morning sickness. I mean, I felt the fatigue of it, but I thought it was the same thing that was happening to me before with like the vitamin D deficiency. So maybe that was the only indication that I was pregnant. And then of course with me having periods every month, I think it was that hemorrhage that was spotting, because it's normal to have that and have spotting throughout your first trimester, which I never had before. So that was, I would have never known that. It may go away, it may not go away. We still don't know. We don't know why it happens. It's uncommon, but it's out there. And it's just a matter of keeping an eye on it for now. So today is Sunday when you're watching this. So tomorrow, which will be the 13th, I'll be officially 4 months along, which is really weird that I'm 4 months pregnant and I've only known for about a month. It's the weirdest thing. I've had more blood work done. I have more appointments set up. I have one more appointment coming up that is actually going to happen by the time you guys see this video, so hopefully everything comes out okay during that time. After that, I was actually referred to the maternal fetal medicine clinic to keep an eye on that. Not just that, but also because I'm older than 35, I am considered advanced maternal age, which okay. As far as like the other stuff that we did the genetic testing that came back negative. Like, we tested for like the Down syndrome, the trisomy, all those other things, that all came back negative. So that was very reassuring to me, because that was another thing that I was worried about, that maybe this was going to cause this stuff, or my age was going to cause this other stuff. So there was just so many things that I was just bombarding my mind with, that when that came back, it's all good. So I'm just hoping that this next ultrasound, everything looks good, and I'm hoping that it's smaller. So yeah, I have more appointments set up. I have so many appointments, it's ridiculous. And then yeah, I guess for right now, I'm just taking my prenatal vitamins, I'm taking my iron, I'm taking whatever supplements that I need to take now that I'm pregnant. I still don't feel very pregnant, and I feel like I'm not showing very much, but that'll all come in time. As long, this whole entire time though, like, the main thing was, we wanted to make sure that this baby was healthy and had the best chance of surviving this whole ordeal that we were told from the beginning that it wouldn't. And that's why I kind of took a break, pulled back from all the stressors that I was kind of dealing with, and just trying to make sure that I was completely healthy and that I'm just taking it easy so that this comes out okay. So that's my story, you guys, of how I got pregnant. Well, I guess not how I got pregnant with the Mirena IUD, but that I got pregnant with the Mirena IUD. I would have never known. I feel like there's so much more I want to say, but I think I've made it long enough. You guys know the whole story now, and hopefully if any of you who's going through it or went through it, you know, yeah, it's not common, but it does happen, and just, you know, hopefully you're all okay out there. And yeah, that's it, you guys. I am gonna go ahead and peace out, because I feel like my nose is getting all stuffy and I just can't even talk anymore. So thank you guys so much for sticking it out with me and like listening to this whole dramatic pregnancy announcement. I appreciate you guys so much. Obviously, now that there's this whole new journey that I'm starting, there's gonna be so much more that I'm gonna be sharing with you guys, hopefully. Just staying positive for now. I'm just day by day, week by week almost. But I think everything will be okay, and just, it's not in my hands, never was. So, alright guys, I'm gonna say goodbye. Thank you guys so much for tuning in, okay? Just leave me any of your comments or questions or anything down below that I might be able to answer, and I will see you guys on the next one. Bye.